Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film in Vermont podcast. We did it. We're on episode 2 now. My name is Brian Carroll, and I am your host. And today's guest is Chico Eastridge. Chico is the technical director and a senior producer at Junction Arts and Media in White River Junction, also known as JAM. Chico also goes as the professional plugger-inner down there, according to his bio on the website. Like many of the guests that we're going to have on this show, I guess you would call it, Chico is also a director, an editor, a sound guy, an actor, and so on and so on. Really just the epitome of independent filmmaking. I first met Chico pretty soon after I moved to Vermont, and he and his team were veterans of a local 48-hour film slam that my wife and I partook in. Their work was wonderfully weird and out there, and really the fun that they had making their submission was truly evident in the work that they made and the end result in the film. Chico still seems to live by that code today. His recent film Thirst Quenchers was shot with a crew made up of all friends and contemporaries from the White River Junction area. We dive deeper into that film and all the different layers that it really has and requires multiple watchings because of that. Chico continuously kept me laughing with his dry wit and all of his stories, and I really enjoyed talking to him as part of the podcast. So anyway, here we go. Yeah, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So really, I guess like to kind of level set, the intention of it is to be a bit of a companion piece to the new website database, but also to collect different perspectives and experience from filmmakers all over the state, because, you know, obviously we all have such differing kind of experiences and projects that we're working on. And I think that you in particular have, you know, a very unique one where you're also working at JAM, and that's obviously a job is a big part of your life. So you're doing that along with your own projects and things like that. So to start all of these, and by all these, I've only recorded one of them so far, so all is a bit relative.
Sure, two.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But kind of allowing the guests to like, what is your elevator pitch about what you do and how you kind of fit into the fabric of the film and creative media space in the state? You know, what do you do? What do you define yourself as? What are your interests?
Gosh, you know, I generally tell people that my job is I make weird little videos. And yeah, I work at JAM. And you'll kind of see me floating amongst all kinds of different capacities. You know, sometimes I'm teaching, sometimes I'm helping get a select board meeting going. Sometimes I'm working on, like I did a video where we walked around White River the other day, and with Matt Busey and Kim Souza, and they just kind of like pointed at things and been like, well, that's where the strip club used to be. This building used to look like this, and made a fun little video out of that. And then, you know, a few days later, we put on Pride Prom. We had this big concert with a bunch of bands, and we were doing some multicam shooting and stuff. And, you know, a few days before that was graduation. So it's like kind of breakneck, like we're doing different things with video all the time. And it can kind of cover any sort of base. Later today, I have more of a commercial shoot. We've been hired by I hope I don't screw up their name, the North Country Health Consortium, to make some videos about how to talk to a patient. And it's kind of, they want to look real professional. And so that's like a very, you know, commercial shoot. We set up a bunch of lights and put the camera on a dolly, and we get actors and they say their lines, and try and really make it look real good and sound real good and convey the points that they want to convey.
Yeah, and you've been with JAM for quite some time, correct? Before it was even called JAM. That's right.
Yeah, I've been with JAM, that used to be CATV, Community Access Television. JAM is also Junction Arts and Media. I've been here since 2017.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I think it's obviously just by what you kind of pitch, the things that you have going today or a
Yeah.
couple of days ago. It's like become so much more than just community access TV, which I think comes with its own stigma of like what that is to some
Totally.
people. And
Yeah.
but it's become like, especially in central Vermont, it's become a real stronghold for media and creative expression, and also like a safe space for people. It's like,
Yep.
just a wonderful thing that exists. So what do you see Jam's kind of place in the broader scope of the industry, I guess, for lack of a better term, around the state?
Yeah, I mean, I think industry-wise, we've got the advantage of being like one of the only games in town, but it's I think community access stations in general are a great resource, especially for rural areas that don't have a lot of media opportunities, because we've seen lots and lots of people that have kind of gotten their footing through JAM or CATV, and then have moved on to a career in the field, whether that's in TV or film or news or all kinds of different things. But yeah, it's a good place to get your start, and yeah, learn some ropes. It's like, there can be some rough edges sometimes with our videos. We're not necessarily bringing in, the top of the field talent all the time. And I think that's okay. We want to try and make things as good as possible, but we also want people to be learning, and the stakes aren't necessarily that high all the time. It's like if the, white balance is off on the like middle school concert, I don't know if like the world's going to end. So yeah,
that's something I want to talk to you a little bit later, but while we're still on Jam, I guess. So like there's also a lot of youth programming as well, right? That you guys are doing there.
Yeah.
With the wave of AI just like bombarding all of our consciousness these days.
Yep.
In the work that you're doing, do you see hope for like the next generation of filmmakers wanting to create things in a more traditional sense and learn skills that, relate to like actually holding a camera and editing in an editing bay, and like what does it mean to do sound design or hold a boom pole,
Yeah, it's interesting. And I can't really fathom the direction things are going to go. I think luckily the space we're in documenting things that are actually happening, there's not, I feel like, a lot of desire to replace that with AI. It doesn't really make sense. It's like parents don't want to watch an AI version of their children's 4th grade music concert, even if it sounds like Tchaikovsky. Well, I shouldn't have picked a Russian composer because I can't pronounce it. Yeah, it's like I think there's always going to be desire to see the thing that actually happened. And AI is not the thing that's actually happening. As far as filmmaking, like I think we may see some skills go by the wayside, which I think always has a downside, but I think you could say that as well about, there's, it's like we used to shoot on mini DV tape, and that was really kind of cumbersome, and your tape would get dirty all the time. You'd lose footage, and the fidelity wasn't that incredible. But the advantage of that was you'd always have to log your footage. So you'd sit there and you'd have to watch your footage again and make decisions about what parts you're going to import, because you also had pretty limited hard drive space. And so that was just another step in the edit and kind of got your eyes on the footage again, which I think helped. And since we've gotten rid of that, we have SD cards. That's a disadvantage of that. That's an example of technology evolving in a very small sense, and potentially losing something. But I think, I don't know, like I use, like in DaVinci Resolve, I'll edit things in there, and start implementing all these crazy like AI voice things.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of the biggest problem that comes back to us is you get a recording and the audio isn't good. And so I have all kinds of tricks about trying to zhuzh up that audio a little bit. But now there's essentially a button you can push in DaVinci Resolve, and it's like, and now it just sounds good. It like listened to the person's voice, kind of figured out what their voice should sound like, got rid of the background audio, and it sounds good. It's crazy. And, I look at that, I'm like, great, that saved me some time and made the video better and doesn't really like take away from what was happening. It is, in a sense, making up what the audio should have sounded like. And, so it's maybe is adding a layer of saran wrap or something on it, but you can still see through that saran wrap and see what it was. But that's like going to probably lead to fewer people learning how to EQ things or, learn about gate and dynamics and compression and stuff if you can just push a button and it sounds good. But I guess to that extent, like, using EQ and gate and dynamics are in post are things that, other people in the past would have done on site. So like, you'll get old timers be like, back in my day, you couldn't bring your audio onto the computer and add all these things later. So it's like, so it is this kind of technology progressing, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, your favorite, if you had to narrow it down, what is your favorite part about working at Jam and being part of the community there?
I don't know. Geez, there's all kinds of things. It's like, it's hard to narrow it down just because, so many things happen in a day, which can also be a drawback where like you come in, you're like, I'm going to do this thing. And then like you get to the end of the day, they're like, what happened? Like 50 different things came at us and I ended up going in so many different directions that I didn't actually do the thing I set out to do. But that's because we've got a very visible space on Main Street, and people just kind of walk in. And it's similar. I used to work just a few doors down at a teen center, and in some ways it has a similar vibe where people just pop in, and whatever they're doing could influence what you're doing for the rest of the day. We do try to be a little bit protective of our time, but sometimes somebody comes in, they're like, I have this VHS tape and I want to digitize it. I'm like, well, you could do it. Like, you could talk to this person. And I don't know, like, it's easy to get distracted, and you want to help people. So, why not get distracted sometimes? But back to the actual question, what's my favorite part though? Like, I think in some ways I was answering it there. Just like all these interactions with people, is probably the best part. On like a just like bare bones filmmaking level, like things that I like to shoot the most, is probably, the thing I always look forward to the most is our high school film intensive, which is coming up. And that's a time when we've got some teenagers for 2 weeks, and we take a short script that's like 3 to 5 pages long, and we really try to do a good job shooting it. And that's fun. And the students are old enough that they tend to take it a bit more seriously than our middle schoolers, who are also great. But it's nice to kind of stretch your wings a little bit, and really like bust out the apple boxes and the reflectors and the gobos and all the gear, and really try and get a shot to look good.
The work that Chico and the team at Jam do is something that you truly can't praise enough. It's a community hub. It's a safe space. It's a place for people to learn. And they're putting cameras and gear into the hands of, the youth that otherwise would never have the opportunity to do so. They're keeping traditions alive, they're keeping an industry afloat, and it's, a third space where people can go to learn and connect and do all these wonderful things. And I can't stress enough how important things like this are to Vermont, where we are so community oriented, and take care of your neighbor is a mentality that many of us hold near and dear to our heart. So I urge you, if you're out there listening to this, check out JAM. We'll link all of their information in the comments section. And if you're able to support them, make a donation, even if it's a small one, or go and check out some of the really incredible work and workshops and programs and classes that they're doing. It really is well worth your time, and we all are better together when we support one another.
Yeah.
So I want to maybe shift a little bit to kind of talk about like your personal work as well, because that's obviously really important. I feel like, as long as I've known you, I first became aware of you through the 48-hour film slam, community. And I feel like, in most of your work that I'm familiar with, you really embrace the idea of a community and getting things done for, creating for creation's sake and challenging yourself within certain confines, whether that's, a time crunch or, all my friends are just going to be part of this movie. And like, you really lean into, I hope you don't take offense, but you lean into the strange a little bit, which I think is a really beautiful thing. The epitome of making work just for the process and really enjoying that, which I think is super special. So could you maybe talk about, your involvement in film slams in the past and kind of creating things in some of your work that's come from that avenue?
Yeah. Big shout out to the film slams, the Cohos or Bradford Film Slams that started, I think, in like 2010. Those were pretty pivotal to me. I had gone to mass art for film video, but dropped out one semester into the major, and had worked on some film stuff that was pretty bad, but then moved back up here and kind of was like, well, maybe that didn't really work out. And I had this camera that I'd bought, but I was like, well, maybe my filmmaking days are behind me. And my friend Drew, who I've done a bunch of creative projects with him and his brother Ben. He called me one day and he was like, I saw this flyer for a thing called a film slam where you have to make a movie in 48 hours. Do you want to try and do it? I said, sure. And so we went out and shot a movie, and it was real, it was real, just like point the camera and be like action, and you don't really have lights or sound and much of an idea of what you're doing, which is this really fun form of filmmaking that that's kind of where you tend to start, is just you point a camera at things and then you add things onto it. But and we're up against some teams that like were really pretty professional, and we looked at their stuff and like, oh my God, they've got dolly shots and lights and all this stuff. And like a plot that they like wrote down. But we ended up coming in second. We were like, wow, they liked our film, despite the fact that like you could, it was very homemade. And that really encouraged us to keep doing it. And then there was film slams in Montpelier. We did a film slam through CATV. We did one through Boston. I think I ended up doing 17 film slams. And
wow.
And we just kind of every time added more and more and more. And we also started seeing familiar faces, because we were doing these, and then other people were too. Whitaker Inbrickson, Liam O'Connor-Genero, Matt Busey was at a bunch of them. You were there. There was all these people, that we ran into, and over time, those have become like pretty important contacts in the Vermont film scene. It's a very small group, but I've ended up working with all these people that I met through the film slams, and via the film slams, I developed my own skills. And because it's a contest, you want to do better, and so you're like, I really want to show up that other team, so I'm really going to dig in and try and learn this thing. And so eventually I was able to apply for a job at CATV and felt very comfortable slotting into it. I highly suggest a film slam for anyone that's looking to cut their teeth in filmmaking, and talk to other filmmakers and jump onto other people's projects. I've worked on Matt Busey's films, Whitaker's films, Liam's films, all these people, Michael Fisher. I've been up late at night pretending to nail frogs to a trailer for Michael Fisher's film, and do all these things, and know that filmmaking is unglamorous in the process. Because nailing a frog to a trailer in the middle of the night at like 3-4 in the morning, and you've been sitting around for 8 hours, isn't that fun in the moment. But then you get to watch it later, and you're like, oh yeah, I helped. You need people to help. So,
It's very much this, like, the making things with your friends. It makes me nostalgic for something that I was never part of, like the mumblecore movement of like the early 2000s that was centered around South by Southwest with like Andrew Bujalski and Greta Gerwig and Ty West and the Duplass brothers. And I saw like Mark Duplass, who, like, all these people are names that are making very large films and projects these days. And Mark Duplass is now kind of pioneering this attempt to bring that methodology back in a way where like they're making TV series, but they're like doing them themselves in how they want to do them. Really capitalizing on this, leaning into like making things with your friends still, that started as, hey, will you hold the boom pole for my project? And I'll be like the background actor for yours, or I have some skill, like I can hold a camera. I'll be a second camera op for you. And I feel like, the epitome of that, like Thirst Quenchers feels like that to me, your film. And I came across it, which, like, in this very beautiful way, somebody handed me, I think Brian from Standard Company Tattoo, I was in getting some work done. I was getting a new tattoo from him. And I think he gave me, Cedar gave me a business card. Cedar, who you work with, who hopefully we can get them on this podcast as well, handed me a business card that had like a link on it or something, and it just said Thirst Quenchers across the front. I then gave that business card after I watched the film to Brian at Standard Company Tattoo. And I think like that way of a movie getting around is this, that's like the nostalgic part of, passing around old skateboard videos or something like that. Can you, and I mean, the backstory of the film is really something else, but I just wanted to give you kudos because it has such like a Seven Seal Bergman vibe to it. And so I wanted to maybe first give us the backstory and then maybe talk about some of your inspiration for that film and like the look of it.
Sure. So I'll work backwards from the business cards. We, Ben Pepperdy, who I've worked with a lot, I mentioned him earlier, works at a print shop, and so he made all these business cards with a QR code on it that advertised the movie that we made, and then we've put them on car hoods. We've just handed them out. And what killed me later was I showed my friends the film, and I used that card, and I followed the link, and somewhere like in the middle of the film, for whatever reason, the image freezes several times. There was like some sort of glitch in the export that I hadn't caught, and it's like, man. So I've uploaded a more pristine version since then, but yeah, those are a really effective way of literally putting your film in somebody else's hands. I've used business cards in a variety of ways. I released some solo albums, and I just put the music on my website and gave people a business card to watch it. When I was getting married, our wedding invitations were business cards that I could just hand out to anyone, and they said, everyone's invited. Here's what you need to know. There's not a lot to it. It's a wedding. Come on down. So I highly recommend business cards as a form of advertising. But the film Thirst Quenchers is I was biking around during the pandemic, and as I'm so often apt to do, I looked inside a dumpster, and I saw an old Apple Macintosh in there, and I yanked it out, and I brought it home, and I plugged it in, and it turned on, and then I kind of clicked around. The computer had come from a school, and there was some traces of the school there. I think it had been probably not really used that much of the school. It had just been kind of like a curiosity. One of the best things I found on it was a paint document that somebody had used the spray paint tool to write "send nudes lol," and thought that was great. But then I found there was all these church documents. I think it had lived most of its life in some church, and in those documents was a script called Thirst Quenchers that was, I think, 3 pages long. And it had probably been for a church pageant or something. And it was about people selling lemonade. And in the end, somebody is giving water away for free. And the moral is, that the free gift of the water of life is great. It satisfies. And is what all of the characters say simultaneously. And it kind of has some baffling like implications. And the language is really stilted and forced. And there's one of my favorite parts of the script is there's these characters, Aaron, BJ, Ben, and at one point Ben's name changes to John for one line, and so we were reading that, and like when we're going around, and it's like so somebody else had to read John's line, which was who, me, and I just brought this to this group of friends that sometimes we get together and read scripts and stuff. And I think it was Liam was like, we should shoot this. And we're like, okay. And so Whitaker Inbrickson and I, Whitaker was the cinematographer, and he'd been living in an old courthouse in Woodsville that he still uses for filmmaking. And the courtroom became our construction set for these 3 lemonade stands we wanted to make. Well, one is a water stand. And we read through the script over and over and over again. And really, while we were like making these lemonade stands, which were kind of like German impressionist stands, they're like really angular and sharp and kind of dangerous looking, we were like really debating the meaning behind Thirst Quenchers. Like the joke of the movie is that we took it seriously, and in doing so, we also made a serious movie. So it's like, and you can, how am I even going to articulate this? Like, you can kind of experience it several different ways simultaneously. Like, it is kind of horrifying and does kind of make you think, and is really beautiful at times, but it's also funny that exists because like it's this benign nothing script that people have taken too seriously. So it's like, I don't know if I've submitted it to some festivals and I never know what to submit it as. Is it horror? Is it drama? Is it comedy? I don't exactly know.
Depends on the viewer, right?
Yeah, it depends on the viewer and what you want. Like, there are parts that make you laugh, and it's just like so ridiculous that it's also like an experimental film. But yeah, we took lots of influence from The Seventh Seal. Eraserhead by David Lynch was really a big influence. We had kind of a lookbook. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and all these things. We were drawing from a bunch of different things, and knew that we wanted it to be kind of horrifying. It's similar to Eraserhead. That's one of my favorite films, and whenever anyone asks like what's the scariest film you've ever seen, I always say Eraserhead, despite the fact that it's not a horror movie, but it is horrifying. And so that's
there's a just very unnerving, like the whole time you're watching it, you feel very not at
that's
ease.
The whole thing like takes place in hell. And we drew a lot from Dante's Inferno. I'm kind of obsessed with Dante's Inferno, or the entire Divine Comedy. And there's all kinds of things about the people, the three salesmen represent the three sinners in the jaws of Satan, and occasionally they gnash their teeth to kind of indicate that they are in the jaws of the devil, and all the other characters are sinners from different circles of hell that represent gluttony, thievery, suicide, lust, all these things, and they're all just trying to get a glass of lemonade, and there was all these places where we had to interpret things. The biggest one being that at one of the lemonade stands, you have to get lemonade, you either have to do 10 push-ups or 10 bicycle pumps. And everyone, every time they get to that part in the script, says, "What's a bicycle pump?" Some sort of workout routine that maybe was like an inside joke or something at this church nobody's ever heard of. And so the question was, what's a bicycle pump? And how are we going to answer that? Because that's like a Chekhov's gun if I've ever seen one. Like if someone's going to mention bicycle pump, we have to see a bicycle pump happen. And so the movie was delayed by years because we shot most of it in 2020 at the Elizabeth Copper Mines, which I can get into later. But then we had to shoot the bicycle pump scene, which took place in Whitaker's basement, which has a jail cell in it because it's an old courthouse. Just like coordinating our schedules didn't work out for years. And so that scene took place years later. We'd lost his costume and found it was actually like the opposite costume. He was wearing a windbreaker that was black and white, and I found another windbreaker that essentially had the opposite black and white pattern, which, when you have an accident like that, it means something in a film like this. Nobody ever notices unless I point it out, but we could be like, well, that's because he's like, gone into this separate space, that he's gone to a whole other plane, and so it's almost like the opposite. But really, it was just because we couldn't find the original windbreaker. And he has to like torture somebody in there he like uses this thing that looks like a bicycle pump, and he like sucks their guts out, and that becomes the lemonade that he drinks. So that's what a bicycle pump means. But also that character represents Beatrice, the love interest from the Divine Comedy, the divine love, and he kind of stifles that love and gets farther from divine love in the end because of his sinful actions, because he's lustful.
So many layers.
There's so many layers to this stupid thing. The scene, the bicycle pump scene, like Whitaker and I like went over these things. It's like, well, maybe like he like does this bicycle pump and it like slowly crushes her, and we were like coming up with all these torture things, and eventually we settled on her guts getting sucked out because we had like a vacuum hose, and we were filming it and we're like, this is kind of funny. And then in the editing process, like I was putting it together, and it's really like it's a really violent scene, and makes you feel bad. It's like, and it's very straightforward. Like it becomes a scene about sexual violence, and it was kind of done on accident. Like we kind of knew what we were doing, but then like once you actually see the visuals all laid out, it's one of those situations where a story is told multiple times, and one of the times is in the edit. And yeah, I think it's a really brutal scene, despite the fact that when we were doing it, we were like, it'll be funny. Her guts will get sucked out in this like absurd way. But yeah, it ends up kind of starting out kind of funny, and then in the end, you're not laughing. And I think that's a really effective way of like going to someone's, going to someone emotionally is taking away their joy of something.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a commonality with horror, right? You frequently hear people say, well, it's not that scary when you're on set, but then it ends up being, hopefully if it's a good horror movie, scaring the crap out of you. I do want to just take the like little bit of time left, but I just want to maybe get your take on like,
sure,
what do you think? Because a whole part of this whole Film in Vermont thing is trying to fill a gap that so many other states have with a film office and, a locations database and a crew and cast database. But what do you feel, Vermont could use in terms of infrastructure and things like that to try to bolster a better industry here or a better community here for film and creative media?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, it comes down to money. It's like definitely the hardest part of filmmaking is just getting people's schedules to line up. And that's kind of something that money helps alleviate. Another film I worked on with the same group of people, The Ghastliness, is a horror comedy, and it had an ensemble cast. I think there was 5 characters in it, and kind of in most of the scenes, all 5 characters are in it, which became a real struggle to shoot because everyone was working and was just kind of providing their free time. And so I was working at Thetford Academy at the time, and I'd get off work and I'd grab Ben Pepperdy and meet up with Whitaker Inbrickson at Richard Waterhouse's house in Newberry, and we'd set up all the equipment. We'd take like hours like composing the shot, and then we'd have like 2 actors come in. We're like, we can frame the shot this way so these 2 characters will be in it, and it'll look like they're in a scene with everyone else, and we can film like these 2 shots, and we'd get those 2 shots, and then we'd take everything down, pack everything up, go away, and then come back the next day and do like 2 more shots, and it took forever. And so it's like something where it's like, well, if we all had like the week off, we could have just busted the film out. And I don't know how you really fix that because, we made a fun film, The Ghastliness, but nobody wants to pay us for it. So I don't know, it's like, I guess like, we only have 2.5 minutes, but I see it down here at JAM. We also host the White River Indie Films, and we have a regional filmmaker showcase, or we play short films before a lot of our feature films that are from regional filmmakers. And we had to kind of stifle accepting films from Canada because Canada has like a film board that'll actually give filmmakers money. And it just became the like Montreal showcase because all these filmmakers actually had some resources to make films, and they just outclassed the ones that were from New England because of that. So yeah, it's like it would be great to see there actually be a little bit of funding, public funding for the arts, I guess is the way I would say it. How you divvy up those funds always becomes an issue, but I think the Montreal example is a great framework that they're able to get some funds out there, and filmmakers are able to make some good stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Chico. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I loved hearing more about Thirst Quenchers and all of the nuance to the story that you took.
Yeah, check it out. It's on youtube.com/Brave Sea Captains. Maybe it's the Brave Sea Captains. I can't remember.
We'll link it.
Okay, link it in the description. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all of the luck in your future.
Thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, man. I had so much fun talking with Chico. I hope that I'm able to work with him on some wild and crazy project at some point in the future. After we recorded this, I went back and rewatched Thirst Quenchers twice, and it takes on a whole new meaning for me. It really does, everything we talked about. So I urge you, if you have the opportunity to go and visit Chico and the crew down at Jam and be a part of the wonderful things they're doing down there in White River, please do so. We'll link their website and everything down below. Check out their events calendar, and be sure to keep tabs on Chico and everything he's doing. I'm sure he is going to pop up in a film slam down the line somewhere, or just create really interesting and beautifully strange work, creating for the sake of creation, which is something that is so special, and I think we lose sight of in this world where we're bombarded with social media and wanting to be our externally facing best. So anyway, till next time, this has been Film in Vermont. My name is Brian Carroll, and thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.